Today on Nerdalific, we're going to enter our data into our budgeting workbook. Let's go over to our planning sheet. Enter in each expense into your workbook. Let's begin with our fixed expenses, things that you don't have as much control over how much you have to pay. For example, mortgage, loans, house insurance. Don't worry, we can always fix the column width after. Life insurance, mortgage insurance, vehicle insurance, car payments. Now I'm going to double click between A and B to auto adjust the column width. The category is going to be important. For example, we need to know that a loan payment is debt. House insurance, life insurance, mortgage, all of that should simply be called insurance. One cool tip is if you want to copy data down without having to use your mouse and drag the information down, you can also hit Control D, and Control D will copy whatever data is in the cell above the cell that you're clicked on. Now you may not necessarily have a category for everything. For example, a mortgage is a mortgage. You don't really need to fill in the category information. Now let's type in your moderately flexible. These are going to be things like your hydro or heat, your phone, your water bill, if you have one. In most cases, these expenses are going to be expenses which you have somewhat control over. You're going to have a minimum amount that you have to pay, but sometimes that amount is going to change. Let's include credit card payment. Now the hydro or heat is utility. Now some people pay their hydro and heat on the exact same bill, where others have it completely separated. I have it on the same line, but you can separate it if you need to. A phone bill is a utility, water is a utility, and credit card, of course, is debt. Now for your flexible expenses. These are going to be things like your gas, your dining out, your groceries, special occasions and gifts. Anything like that is completely flexible for the most part. Some people would argue that gas is a little bit more on the moderately flexible amount. It depends on how much you need to spend per week on your gas. If, for example, you commute to work and you go through a full tank of gas per week, then you know how much a full tank of gas costs. Generally, I know it changes, but you need to have at least some sort of a minimum. So technically, gas could be considered a moderately flexible amount. However, if you choose to carpool with somebody, then you might not need to save as much gas money. So dining out, special occasions or gifts, groceries. Now, I'm going to just type in here other, but this could be things like hobbies or, groups that you're involved in, anything that you do outside of your usual, normal family life. Okay, so for now, I'm going to type in some random amounts here. I don't know how much you pay on your bills and such, but I'm just going to give you an amount. Each payment is, say, $550 for your mortgage. I'm just going to go through and type in some random numbers here. Loans, gosh, who knows how big your loan could be. It could range. Maybe it's $300 each payment. House insurance, $120. Okay, so I'm going to leave the bottom sections blank for now. Let's change this column to the currency format. Let's type in the frequency. Bi-weekly, and the rest of these should generally be monthly. And again, this is just my best estimate. don't forget to save your workbook. Now let's enter in a formula to figure out how much we actually pay per year on each of these amounts. For a bi-weekly payment, we're going to type in equals this amount times 26, because there are 52 weeks in a year. And if you're only paying every second week, that means you only have half of 52, which is 26 weeks. Now, let's do the exact same thing. We're going to hit Control D to copy down the same formula because, again, this one is also bi-weekly. Now, when it comes to monthly, obviously, we're going to be multiplying our amount by 12 because there are 12 months in a year. So, equals this cell times 12. Now, we can copy this formula all the way down. So I'm going to hover over this little bottom corner and drag it down to the bottom of the data that we're looking at. Again, I'm going to hit save. At no point do I want to actually lose all the data that I have entered, and so saving frequently is extremely important. The next step is to determine what your weekly, bi-weekly, and monthly payments are. This is just going to tell us how much we would have to pay out of a check if we got paid weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. You might not have to do each of these. If, for example, all of your incomes are bi-weekly, then you really don't need to figure out how much your save amount would be on a weekly income or a monthly income. But for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to go ahead and give you the formulas for all different situations. So weekly equals the total annual amount divided by 52 weeks. This is how much money you would need to save each week if you had a weekly income in order to cover your mortgage payments. We are going to copy this down all the way to the bottom. If you had to do a bi-weekly payment, we are going to take the annual amount and divide it by 26. Now I know what you're thinking. For these two, we already had those amounts. But that's okay. You're going to need to use this formula for most of the other cells. Now similarly, for monthly, you pretty much already have your monthly amount. But just to be on the safe side, we're going to go ahead and enter this formula in anyways, just so that I can show those people who do have a monthly income how to enter this formula. So equals the annual amount divided by 12. This gives us our monthly save amount. Now I know you didn't actually have this amount before, so if you pay your mortgage bi-weekly and you get paid monthly, this is how much money you would need to save every month in order to make your $550 payment. So let's copy this formula down. Now of course, a lot of this data is going to be exactly the same as our actual bill amount. So again, you don't necessarily have to do all three columns to figure out how much your save amount is. It is based on how frequent your money is coming in. Another factor where this is going to be helpful is if you actually have like a government income, like for example a GST check if you're in Canada, and say your GST check is enough to cover your life insurance, it's good to know how much money you need to save every month in order to cover your life insurance. When it comes to the rest, I'm just going to put in some other random data. Now your credit card, again, your credit card bill payment, you can change. You need to make sure you have at least your minimum, but it's best to go even a few dollars over that. You're never going to get yourself out of that credit card debt if you don't put more than your minimum payment. So say if your credit card bill is $50 a month, and that's your minimum payment, I would probably bump that up to at least $80. But again, it's going to be dependent on what your situation is. Now, as you can see, Excel has assumed that all of the formulas in here needed to be copied down to the next row. It might also do that as I enter in data going down, but we're going to be copying those formulas down anyways. Now, of course, this formula here is not going to be entirely accurate for everything, so I'm just going to delete it here so we don't continually copy it down. Now, dining out is something you're going to have to put a little bit more thought into. How much can you afford to eat out? How much do you want to eat out? That we might want to save until the end. In terms of gifts and special occasions, you're going to have to play with this amount a little bit. Now, say you have 5 people in your family that you buy for birthdays and for Christmas. I recommend doing a little list off to the side, either on a different spreadsheet or over here somewhere, and say column L, and put the person's name and the amount you want to spend on each of their gifts and how many gifts you buy them each year. So for example, name, amount, quantity. Brenda, you want to spend $40 on her gifts, and you're going to buy her 2 gifts a year, one at her birthday and one at Christmas. So we're just going to enter in 2 here. The total amount that you're going to spend on Brenda is going to be equals the amount times how many times you are going to buy Brenda a gift. You can keep going on this list until you have listed every person that you buy a gift for, the amount you spend, the quantity of times you actually purchase them a gift per year, and then copy down this formula to figure out how much you actually spend in gifts in total. Now that total is what you are going to enter over here for gifts. So let's just add a few more people in there in the same situation just to kind of have an idea of an example here. So 5 people. Let's use the AutoSum function to figure out how much money this is. $400. So say we spend $400 per year on gifts and special occasions. Now again, if your family or the people that you spend money on for gifts tend to go out for a special dinner for that birthday, then you're going to want to bump this up to cover how much money you need to cover that dinner expense. Don't wait till the moment where you're going out to say, oh, damn, I forgot to save for that. You can save for that now. If you don't save for it, you're going to end up running into scenarios, or you could run into scenarios where you may need to start using your credit card and therefore dig your debt a little bit deeper. Your groceries. There is a lot of different information out there on the internet telling you how much you should spend on groceries. It really depends on what kind of food you eat, how many people are in your household, and where you like to shop. Do you buy organic? Do you buy a lot of junk food? Only you know how much you spend on groceries. So assuming that we have 3 sets of income on our budget sheet, I'm going to say that these 2 are actually people, and this 3rd one is some other form of income. So let's go back to the planning. We're going to consider us 2 people. Now I'm just going to ballpark it. This is not necessarily an accurate number, but say we spend like, $300 in total on groceries bi-weekly. That's $150 on groceries per person per pay period, if you get paid bi-weekly. I'm going to call this a club, so we're going to do like $20 for that one, and this is going to be a monthly fee. So let's finish filling out these formulas. So we need to figure out the total annual amount based on spending $50 of gas per week. So obviously that is going to be $50 times 52 weeks. Now dining out, I know I've left this blank again. I kind of like leaving this one till last. For now, we're going to put in a ballpark figure. So let's say we spend, for 2 people, a household of 2 people, say we only spend $60 bi-weekly. That's 2 cheap dinners out or 1 average dinner out. You can always change this later on. Of course, this is our bi-weekly formula. So this is not right. Let's take our bi-weekly formula that we have created. We're going to paste it here and here. Let's take a copy of our monthly formula and paste it here. The rest of this can be copied down. So if you highlight 3 cells at a time and you double click on this bottom right arrow, it will automatically fill to the rest of the workbook. Don't forget to save. Okay, so that is all for today, and we are going to move on to the next video, which is determining which income will cover each expense. See you soon.